not too far away, I decided that today I would take you into the kitchen and I would show you my recipe for the most delicious savory stuffing, the turkey stuffing. I know everybody likes that at Thanksgiving, and this is my favorite recipe, and I find that it's very easy, buttery, toasty, just delicious. And it's something you can make up ahead of time and just pop in the oven the day of. And so I've got a garden still full of fresh herbs, and so I thought this would be the perfect time to show you guys how I make turkey stuffing. So we're gonna head over to the garden now. Well, I'm ready now to start the stuffing. We've got all of our herbs. I got the chicken broth out of the pantry, and we're gonna go on in the house and make this stuffing and just show you just how easy and delicious it is. So the first thing we're gonna get started with is we're going to cube our bread. Now, I don't know if you're using homemade bread or if you're using store-bought bread, but either of them are gonna work just fine. I have a loaf of a rosemary type French bread, and I've had it for a good 3 or 4 days, so it's like I probably wouldn't want to eat it just fresh like a slice of bread, because I've been kind of letting it dry out a little bit, which is exactly what you want with this recipe. So I'm just cutting them into 1-inch slices. And I went ahead and I weighed my bread because it calls for about a pound. Your loaf of bread should be about a pound. And my bread was just under a pound. So I added the end of another loaf of bread and it equals about a pound. So now I'm going to cut these. We're going to cut these into slice it into chunks, about 1-inch cubes. They're going to be about this big. I don't know if you can see that. So we're going to do that with the rest of this bread. Okay, so the bread is all cubed. And I've been doing that. I've been having my butter melting. I have 3/4 cup of butter here. That's a cube and half of another cube. So I've let that melt, and I'm gonna use that on these breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna transfer that onto a cookie sheet, and I've lined it with parchment paper. Now I purchased pre-cut pieces of parchment paper, and it has been like such a time saver. I used to just get the whole roll, and I'd be struggling with like pulling it out and tearing it off, well, just the right size. Well, they sell boxes, and I think I get like 250 pre-cut sheets in a box. So in my blog I've got that linked where you can find that on Amazon. Now I'm going to take these and just give them a little stir to incorporate that butter evenly. All right, so now the first part of your recipe is done. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go put this in my oven, and I'm going to let them toast. And while they're toasting, I'm going to be working on sauteing up the vegetables and getting the rest of the ingredients together. All right, now we're going to prepare the vegetables. And while those are going, we are going to prepare our herbs. Okay, so our bread cubes are done, and as you can see, they're very, very crispy. They would make perfect croutons. So we're just gonna add these bread cubes to our bowl. Okay, at this point you're probably going to want to go and preheat your oven. If you've left it on from toasting the breadcrumbs, you're going to want to turn it up to 350 and let it get up to that temperature while you're finishing up. In another bowl, you're going to put the remainder of your chicken broth, which is the other 1 1/4 cup, into your bowl, along with 2 eggs. Now we're ready to move on. All right, now we're going to want to take the egg mixture and drizzle that over the breadcrumbs as well, evenly. And we're going to toss it together, but just fold it gently so you're not mushing the breadcrumbs, the bread cubes into mush. These are still holding just nice cubes of bread. We want to keep it that way, but just get it super well incorporated. And then we're going to transfer this to your pan that you're going to bake it in. You can use a roasting pan with a lid. A lot of times, depending on how many guests, like by making this for Thanksgiving and it's a lot of guests, I'll make 3 or 4 of these recipes, and I'll put this in my large roasting pan and put a lid on it. So something with a lid. If you don't have a lid, you can put foil on it, or you can put it in a 9x13 if you're just making like a single recipe. It doesn't really matter what you cook it in, but you're going to want a lid. So whether it came with a lid or you're going to use foil, either one of those are going to work. All right, so this is the pan that I like to use, and then I'm just going to put foil over the top. That is if I'm just making a single recipe. So I like to put a little bit of butter on the bottom, just so it doesn't stick, and because butter is good, it'll just make it even more flavorful. So I just put in a light coating up the sides and on the bottom. Okay, now we're just going to transfer this into our casserole pan and just spread it out. I'm going to cover this with foil, and I'm going to put it out in my oven, and I'm going to cook it for about 40 to 50 minutes. We're looking for the internal temperature to be 160 degrees. So I use my little meat thermometer, my digital one, and I'll stick it in the center, and once it hits 160, then I move on with the recipe. So my casserole has been cooking at 354. It's been about 40 minutes, and I will test it to see what the internal temperature. Now this is the digital thermometer I like to use, and once again in my blog I've got that linked, or you can find it on Amazon. So I'm just going to insert it in the middle. Don't let the thermometer touch the pan, because then it's actually measuring the temperature of the pan and not the actual stuffing itself. So we're at close to 170, so it's a little higher than 165, but so we're ready to continue on. So now I'm going to put it back in the oven, and I'm going to cook it with the no covering on it at all, and that's really going to help it crisp up. And this takes about another 40-50 minutes. So you're just it's cooked through. I mean, it's safe to eat, but now you're just looking for it to become very crispy. It's done. It's beautiful golden toasty. The bread is crisp and buttery, and it smells delicious. Now, I know a lot of people like to get as many things done ahead of time when they're working on their Thanksgiving dinner, and they try to pre-cook things several days in advance. And you can cook this in advance. So what you would do is you would follow it through until the first cooking. You're going to put it in the oven covered, and you're going to cook it until that internal temperature is 160, and then you remove it from the oven and you let it completely cool. It needs, the very center needs to be cool. 100, you know, like if it's still a little bit warm in the middle and you put it in the refrigerator, you can have food poisoning. So just cool it completely, and then cover it up and put it in your refrigerator. And then the day of Thanksgiving, you would take it out and bring it to room temperature. Maybe take it out about 30 minutes before you're wanting to put it in the oven, and let the chill come off of it, and then put it back in the oven with the cover off, and that's just the final bake time where you're crisping it up. And then, you know, you would be able to just serve it hot. So you would be able to make most of this, except for that just popping in the oven at the end. You could make it, you know, 2 to 3 days in advance and get that out of the way so you can focus on more of the last minute baking for Thanksgiving. And don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell so that you're notified every time that I post a recipe. I post here weekly and fill my channel with farm fresh, from scratch, delicious food.